Good afternoon, hello, good evening, good morning from wherever you are in the world, and welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so pleased to be hosting you today for the second U.S.-Africa Trade and Investment Global Roundtable. We have amazing speakers lined up for you. Our theme for today is repositioning Africa as a key global investment destination. My name is Rashina Budhu, and I am the Vice President, Investor Relations for the U.S.-Africa Trade Council, and I am based in South Africa. I would like to hand over to my co-host who will introduce herself. Over to you, Denitra.
Hello, everyone. I am Samantha Kelly. I'm the Vice President of Community and Government Relations here at the Council. I have the privilege of hosting this event today with Rashina, and we are honored to have all of you here with us today. You're welcomed.
Thank you, Denitra. So to our audience, we are so honored to have you join us. You know, there is a Nigerian quote that says, or a quote coming from Nigeria, where our president actually comes from. And it says, "A man cannot sit alone to plan for prosperities." So here we are. The fact that we could have so many entrepreneurs across the world attend our second investment global roundtable speak volumes about the desire for people around the world to get together to try and reset, rebuild our broken world. And we are so honored to have you here today. Our program goes like this, and I will explain the program so you have a good idea as to how you would want to attend. If you would be here for the entire duration, we would be so happy to have you. The speakers are dynamic. The speakers have a lot of information to give. And where else can you actually get the best kind of information but at a webinar with the U.S.-Africa Trade Council? Our opening address would be from the chairman for the U.S.-Africa Trade Council. The keynote address is the U.S.-Africa trade relationship, why it is even more important today. Our first speaker would be His Excellency, representing His Excellency President Emmerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe. I would introduce him as we go along. And obviously, we have the second speaker as well, Danielle Agress. Miss Rabia El Alama would be our third speaker. And after those speakers, we are going to have Q&As. We have further speakers, another 2 speakers thereafter, and then again, Q&A. So please listen attentively. Feel free to engage us in your chat room. Please ask all the questions that you need. It's absolutely imperative that you do ask questions so that we have a good idea as to what it is you are thinking and how is it that the U.S.-Africa Trade Council can be of benefit to you to grow your business and to trade with Africa across the continent and obviously across the world in the U.S. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to the chairman of the U.S.-Africa Trade Council for the opening address. Over to you, sir.
Well, good morning. Compliments of the day, ladies and gentlemen. I am of the Trade Council, and it's my pleasure to be here today on this second edition of the U.S.-Africa. We are here to explore the opportunities across Africa and the United States. There is no doubt about it for African traders in the of products for the United States. And we have a very powerful handshake in trade and investment across the aisle. We know that in recent times, the United States has devoted probably of goods and services in the world. Now, Africa might not be the largest continent in the world, but we have the fastest growth rates in the world. So the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, if you're not doing business in Africa, you are not doing business. And that's why this engagement is very crucial. Today, we have topics that appeal to all business and entrepreneurs across the aisle. We have a topic on U.S.-Africa relationship, why it's crucial. We're looking at the clean energy prospects and the efforts of USTDA and Prosper Africa in this regard. We're also going to examine the foreign investment potentials in Africa, the financing opportunities across the aisle. All of us have businesses and projects we want to put across. How do we get the finance to go through? What are the soft points? What are the milestones? What are the stumbling blocks we need to avoid? So these are not the things we're going to discuss today. And we are not looking at this just as a seminar. We're actually having prospects for growth in future. We want Africa and United States to do business, not just at the government level, but at the non-government level, at the individual level of you and myself. We can all make money. We can all contribute to the economic growth of our respective countries, respective businesses, and of course, our respective families. So let me step back at this point and hand over back to Reshina and Denitra to continue the program. Again, you're all welcome to this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Titus. Indeed, we want to trade, we want to leave legacies, and we certainly want to build families, our businesses, and make sure that we thrive as Africans. I would like to introduce our very first speaker, who is our keynote speaker, who will be representing His Excellency President Emmerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe, and that is Dr. Davison Totson Gomo. Dr. Davison Totson Gomo has over 30 years of management and executive experience acquired in different sectors of the public and private sector. That is in local government, tertiary and higher education, financial services, civil society, research, and in corporate leadership. In 2004, Dr. Gomo became principal of Cranbrook Business School based in Slag, Berkshire, UK. In mid-2010, Dr. Gomo returned to Zimbabwe and joined the Affirmative Action Group, initially as advisor to the president. He was subsequently elevated to the position of Chief Executive Officer. He is founder and chairman of the African Association for the Advancement of Management Education, an organization that promotes intra- and inter-African business, networking, and investments. He is currently the principal director for the Zimbabwe African National Union. He has held board positions at Eligo Plastics. Focus Security was chairman of RNF Intercontinental Holdings, chairman Zimbabwe Industrial Hemp Trust, board member Harare Quarry, and chair Human Resources and Nominations Committee. He is also a trade lawyer. He is a holder of several degrees, including PhD in International Business, Master of International Law and the World Economy, LLM, International Legal Studies. Dr. Totson, we are so happy to have you. And I would like to say over to you, sir, in terms of presenting to us all the opportunities that we can trade with Zimbabwe. Over to you, sir.
Oh, hi, I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you. Oh, yes. Titus raised a few very important things there. I'm not too sure if I'm going to really worry too much about statistics, because I think doing business with Africa is a very vast area, and there's no one single person who can claim to understand what's available in the continent in its totality. There are institutions, there are big companies, bankers, governments, researchers and so on, who try every day to make the world appreciate and understand what Africa can offer. But to put things in context, I think it's important to understand that, yes, it's true that Africa must seek to reposition itself as a very important destination for investment going forward. The reasons are very obvious, and I think the CEO kind of like inferred a little bit more towards about them. We have loads of resources, we have a lot of arable land, we have a huge population, we have a huge market, we have a young population, if you like, educated people. And of course, the population is expected to double by 2050, if those estimates are anything to go by. I'm thinking that in order to understand this, we need to ask the question whether Africa is ready. And to understand whether it's ready, it's going to be important that we look, just give me 2 minutes to look at the history a little bit. I think Africa is facing a number of problems, most of them being excess baggage from its colonial history. That this has been written about and spoken about, and I don't think we should waste a lot of time on it, except that what that did was to create differentiated Africans. You have Portuguese Africans, French Africans, English Africans, and of course, Italian Africans, and so on. That presents a problem because then it divides the continent generally, something that we don't want at this stage. Of course, efforts have been made through the AU and now the creation of the Continental Free Trade Area creates the right environment and conditions for Africa to begin to take its place at the top table of business. But we know they are coming, the Africans are coming from a very low position, very low indeed. That notwithstanding, I think it's important to appreciate that a number of people have made bold statements. One of them is the former South African President Thabo Mbeki, who said the 21st century belongs to Africa. The problem is that he doesn't tell us how this will happen and what Africa needs to do that. Sure. And another observer says that one of the biggest problems with Africa is that perhaps they don't have a coherent and collective vision, and that creates a number of problems as well. But be that as it may, I think that it is very safe to say that the 21st century could belong to Africa, not necessarily exclusive to itself. All I mean is that it could share all the benefits that come with the success and the development that the 21st century is ushering to the whole world. When Africa is entering the 21st century, it's got a number of mounting problems, but it also has a number of great opportunities. And I want to say that its position is much better today than before. It's better understood because it's been trying to define itself on terms that everyone can appreciate and understand. If you look at what's going on, I think Africa is very good and appropriate macroeconomic policies today. You can pick a number of countries if you like, but almost every African country is moving. Sure, very good macroeconomic policies, very good social policies, and all impact positively GDP growth rates in Africa. And the Africans are more agreed in principle on what needs to be done today to accelerate growth and, of course, reduce challenges of poverty, challenges of marginalization, and, of course, challenges to sustainable development. they are doing much to do that. And Africa is increasing its effort to boost trade, not just within and amongst the Africans themselves. They are doing everything possible to look at the world as a platform of doing trade, the United States included. You made reference to Zimbabwe, and I wish my president was here today to speak for himself. I really don't want to get into that in detail, but obviously I could use that as a very good example. I think the US would help Africa if they were not very selective in terms of who they want to do business with. If you're going to select South Africa, Rwanda, Ethiopia, they are 54 countries in Africa, and all of them need to be engaged. So perhaps, like Titus said, yes, you can define relationships at state level, at business level, at personal level, and I think things will work better if we allow business and people to interact, because then they reduce those barriers, particularly cultural and so on, and create a space where it is possible for people to do business in a very productive way for the benefit of everyone. And I think that Africa today needs far more and greater cooperation with the rest of the world, and it deserves credit for a number of great strides that it has made, but it can't do that on its own. It will require the cooperation of the advanced marketing economies, and the whole arrangement must be on a win-win basis. Some of the things that could happen, for instance, as a gesture of goodwill from America and Europe and whichever other country, is debt cancellation, just so that you create the appropriate business environment. And the World Trade Organization could do a little bit more to recognize the unique situation in which Africa finds itself, so that when those things are removed, Africa is in a much better position to diversify its economy, to produce more locally, and offer finished products and services to the rest of the world. And what it does not need right now are those interventions that deepen economic impoverishment and social marginalization, because then it will undermine not just the environmental sustainability, but the relationships between it and other countries. And we don't need that at this stage. I believe that it is doable, it is possible, because Africa can do just a couple of things to clear the ground, so that those that want to do business with them or with the continent can do so very freely. One of the things is to strengthen public institutions, invest more in public infrastructure, engage more with the rest of the world, and of course, continue to make sure that they invest in appropriate knowledge and ICTs, which I think by and large, a number of the African countries are almost just about there in that respect. Those things are actually very, very crucial. And I think from an American point of view, America needs Africa, and I think not for selfish reasons, because the world is changing. You have a number of, look at China is growing, India is coming up, Indonesia is coming up, Nigeria, South Africa within the continent itself. And I think that it is in America's interest to make sure that they start looking for very positive, sustainable economic arrangements between America and the African continent. The old paradigms must give way to new paradigms. And I think human development is going to be a key factor, because once we do that, we can guarantee peace, we can guarantee stability, we can guarantee a safer world for everyone. And as long as trade increases between Africa and the United States and other countries, you can be absolutely sure that democracy will spread, you can be sure that peace will prevail, and the human race will have confidence in its future. I just want to say that very briefly, yes, if Africa beefs up its capacity and does more, obviously, to invest in development that arises from plans that they develop themselves for themselves, albeit with the intention to partner the rest of the world, Africa will be a much better place. America will be a much better place. The world will be a much better place. And the world will define itself not necessarily on adversarial terms and political terms, but on human terms. And I want to submit that the discussions today are very important. This must be one of many such discussions because the challenges are many, the opportunities are many, and I think the chance that the world can become much, much safer through these interactions and exchanges is almost guaranteed. Let me just end there so I leave time for others to make their presentations. But I can tell you that maybe the third round of this roundtable must continue to focus on those areas that are likely to create the space that allows the US, Africa, and the rest of the world to realize that business, if done and done properly and for the benefit of all the citizens, will create a future and a global community that is very stable and of course reduces the tensions that we see in the world today. Thank you.
Dr. Goma, thank you so much. That was so inspiring. And, the one takeaway from what you've just said, and you bring that with a lot of passion, and that is you've emphasized and encouraged the interaction that Africa and the rest of the world must have and be done properly to create a global economy where everyone benefits. And I think that is exactly what we aim to achieve at the U.S.-Africa Trade Council. I'd like to hand over to my colleague and my co-host, Denitra. Over to you.
Thank you. Next, we have Danielle Agreste. She is the country manager of Sub-Saharan Africa. Danielle is in her capacity at the Trade Development Agency. She is responsible for business development, project preparation, and evaluation. She's also under the supervision of the USTDA activities in Southern Africa. She's a member of the agency's telecommunications sector team. Before joining the USTDA, Mrs. Agreste worked as a contractor, providing research and analytical support to the agency's Sub-Saharan African team. Her previous professional experience includes work in the US government, the private sector, and the Association of Trade. Without ado, I'd like to introduce everyone to Mrs. Agreste. You have the floor. Ms. Agreste? Okay, Rashina, I think we should move on to the next presenter. She may
Absolutely,
be delayed.
Denitra.
Yes,
please
she
go
may be
ahead.
delayed this morning.
Yes, please.
Okay. Our next presenter is Rabia El Alma. Rabia is from Cham, Morocco. He has over 20 years experience in the U.S.-Morocco business relations, international trade, negotiation, mediation, mentoring, project management, entrepreneurship, and counseling in management and strategy. She was the advisory council member at ISCAE Casablanca, Morocco. She has a master's degree in international business, trade, and commerce, and a bachelor's degree in business administration in accounting and finance. Ms. Rabia, we welcome you.
Hello, everyone, from the sunny Casablanca to all my friends in Africa and our colleagues and friends in the US. Thank you, the U.S.-Africa Trade Council, for inviting me for the second conference, second roundtable on opportunities in the continent. As you introduced, I've been working with the MCHAM for over 2 decades, and I do bridge, partnership and opportunities between the U.S., Morocco, and the continent. And in several speeches, we've heard presentation of Africa and, African opportunities, the challenges and obstacles of doing business. But I think, today our aim is to work on opportunities. And because the continent is so huge and the opportunities are so important, I wanted to share with you that within our community, the business community, we advise them to work on segmenting the market. The continent is so big. So if we segment the continent into a few segments, and each company can choose the gateway, the door to the segment of interest. And today I can introduce Morocco as a gateway, at least to the Northwest Francophone Africa. So Morocco is located in the Northwest, only like 14 miles from Spain, and has access to several free trade agreements, especially the one with the European Union, free agreement with the US, free trade agreement with Turkey, Tunisia, Jordan, and several other countries. And so for those of you, looking for opportunities, in the Northwest Africa, you can think of Morocco as a gateway to this segment of the African markets. And when you come to Morocco, you will meet several, opportunities, sectors like the automotive. Morocco has chosen, to promote, sectors of activities. So, for example, in the north, in the free zone of Tangier, where you have the largest Tangier Med port, you will find the automotive sector thriving with several, international brands, including several US companies. And I always give this best example of Lear Automotive, an American company providing all, accessories, inside a car to European markets in almost 48 hours. So Lear Automotive has now about 10 factories with employing something like, 15,000 direct jobs in the country. And so the north, the free zone with the access to Tangier Med, is now the hub for the automotive sector. And so this is like the economic vision of the country is, to establish excellence hubs and clusters in sectors such as the automotive. If you're a company looking into aerospace, for example, you can join the hub or the cluster in Casablanca called the Mid Park. And the Mid Park is so close to the airport, the largest airport of Casablanca, that delivery could go in like 24 hours. And so when you come to a place like Morocco, you gain in terms of proximity to market, you gain in terms of competitiveness, and you gain in terms of duties, especially when you want to use free trade agreements. In addition, this country has shown to be stable both politically and economically. Also, the country has been, managing COVID very, aggressively, and has, very good policies in terms of, prevention and sanitary measures. And, these are some of the assets that this country can offer. So now in terms of, opportunities, you mentioned that, in trade, for example, Morocco is importing a lot of raw materials, including for pharmaceuticals, plastics, steel, packaging, fabric, machinery, ICT equipment, medical devices. In terms of food and agribusiness, Morocco is an importer of cereals, wheat, oils, milk powder, seeds, irrigation equipment, pumps, smart meters, a few other, water equipment. In terms of infrastructure, Morocco is investing heavily in dams, water treatment solution, desalination, renewable energy, mining, oil and gas equipment. Also with the digital, the new digital strategy, Morocco is putting a lot of money into digital, transformation and digital education. The sector of franchising could be a good sector for those looking to establish themselves as a franchise in Morocco. The sector is thriving. I mean, from the American franchises to the French and other franchises here. And when I mention franchise, it's not only fast food, like usually the KFC, the McDonald's, the Pizza Hut, but also a lot of services are coming into the country. Of course, for those looking also to establish themselves as a companies responding to public tenders. Morocco has several tenders going, on their government website, tenders.ma, or other international tenders such as the MCC, the Millennium Challenge Corporation tenders. And recently, this entity has issued something like $200 million in construction projects only. So there's several opportunities in trading with Morocco and investment as well. And so the AmCham could be your gate, your partner in country if you want to, meet partners, local investors, importers, exporters. We're here to make the connection. And so just like to give you a brief, summary of our last first roundtable. Thanks to the roundtable we had with you earlier, we're connected to some exporters from the US and Africa, and we're looking forward to having some success stories to announce soon. And so just to sum up my intervention today, I think, the challenges are there, the opportunities are enormous. So let's make sure that we're gonna seize some of the opportunities, and then we can start talking about success stories while we're at the same time trying to solve some of the challenges and obstacles to trade and investments. So with that, if you have any question, I will be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rabia. That was indeed a wonderful presentation. Look, I want to remind all the attendees that this is a roundtable, so it's absolutely vital that you feel free to engage, ask questions in the chat, and let us have some robust discussions around the availability of opportunities in Africa. Our next speaker is Ms. Sindiswa Mzamo. Sindiswa Mzamo is the founder and president for the Circle of Global Business Women, a global women organization that elevates African women in global forums and platforms aimed at creating a platform for women to trade and connect, learn and connect globally. She has held executive leadership roles in the private and public sectors within South Africa. She's a member of BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, Energy and Green Economy Working Group. She's active in various gender advocacy, education, socio-economic growth drive within the continent and globally. She sits in different boards, Chairman Edison Power KZN, Board Circle of Global Business Women Investments Board, and advisory positions including Regenesis Foundation and Inlet Africa. She's passionate about economic development, leadership, governance, and social developments that are targeted at women in Africa and globally. Sindiswa is breaking boundaries continentally and internationally as a woman business leader with ideas on solving global economic challenges. Internationally and in the continent, an international speaker, a motivational speaker, a mentor, and distinguished judge. She holds qualifications from Gibbs University, Johannesburg, University, Burnham Business College, Institute of Corporate Governance. She holds qualifications in finance, human resources, corporate governances, entrepreneurship, and strategic leadership. She's a global women economic activist and a pioneer for women advancement globally. Circle of Global Businesswomen believes that as leaders, we must play our role to lead in this changing and unpredictable world that is way out of mediocrity and a highway to growth and greatness. With that wonderful bio, Cindy, I hand over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Program Director, my dearest sister, and I think Elsie will assist to share the screen and the presentation. And thank you very much, Reshina. It is indeed a great honor for me to actually present at the U.S.-Africa Trade Council. And it's the sector of global businesswomen. We've got a very strong relationship with the US. And I saw my brother, Moses Boyd. He is from Washington, D.C., and he is the partner to Black Max Media in Washington, D.C. We work very closely with Black Max Media in the US, and thank you very much for joining. And also to all the executives and the esteemed members of the U.S.-Africa Trade Council. It is indeed a great honor for the sector of global businesswomen to be in this platform to particularly talk about a topic that is very close to my heart, which is the powerful impact of women-led entrepreneurship in projecting Africa as a global trade investment destination. But also to acknowledge that as the sector of global businesswomen in South Africa, we work very closely with the American Chamber of Commerce, our dearest sister, Angela Russell, who is the CEO. We've got a very close strategic relationship with the American Chamber of Commerce in South Africa. And the sector of global business women is what our dearest sister Reshina has just said, is a network of intelligent and innovative women who are authentic in their endeavors to create a leadership shift globally. But I think what is really inspiring about us is that we support the rise of women leaders globally and urges them to shatter the glass ceiling in various fields. And hence we're here today in this platform. We acknowledge our dearest sister Reshina as a global leader. We acknowledge Samantha as a global leader. And thank you very much for actually, bringing us on board as a global women organization, because when women rise, nation rises. So, and also we're a unique organization that was established by African women who are actually dedicated to Africa and taking themselves to global forums. And also what is very particular about us, we want to actually make sure that we take the leadership role of women in global markets, but not only working alone. We want to invite men to actually work with us and hold hands and take us to our next C-suite or take us to the deals that we want to see in the marketplace globally. And also, if you look at our global outlook, this is just statistics, because at the end of the day, we can't talk about women and not bring statistics, because now we are talking about women inclusion. We are talking about the role of women in the society at large. I mean, if you look at the world merchandise trade, it plummeted between 13 to 32% in 2020 due to COVID-19. And also, we were expecting a recovery in 2021 to make sure that women can break the ground as well. And also what is interesting is that if you look at the World Bank report and also the World Trade Organization report says, women have a role because there's now an opportunity in services. There's an opportunity in global digital marketing that women can actually start, trying to actually penetrate that market in terms of global and digital, marketing, in terms of marketing their businesses. So the digital economy itself, And I think that's where women must actually participate now to make sure that they pivot the storm and connect with other women globally. By just sitting here in this platform, I'm connecting to women globally, and which is something which is very exciting for the sector of global business women. But also, if you look at the regions, we suffered a double digit because of the declines, because of COVID-19, and also if you look at sectors like electronics and automotives, they took a nosedive because of COVID, and also looking at where we are going because there were transport and travel restrictions. And also when you look at one thing which is really, as I was actually doing a research in where we are statistically sitting as in the world globally because of the pandemic, because the pandemic is a global matter. It's not only South Africa, it's not only Africa, it's affecting all of us globally. If you look at the merchandise volumes, they fell with 0.1% in 2019, way down the tensions and slowing the economic growth. All of us, our economic growth in all our countries in Africa and even in Europe, they became stagnant. So this is why we are here today. That's why I love, at times I always say that there is a positive connotation about COVID, because what COVID has done, it has made us to speak about global reforms. It has made the developing countries to understand the challenges that Africa is facing. And I think this is why we are here today, again, our dearest sister Reshna, to say, how does our, the developing countries in Europe start looking at Africa and make sure that they develop, African women to their next level. The next slide, please. Thank you very much. And also what is really exciting for me, if you look at the Central Intelligence World Factbook, the total gross domestic product for all countries total is 135.178 trillion, 1 year earlier in 2018. And where are women? And these statistics are very important for us to understand, so that we'll be able to actually look at asserting ourselves in terms of actually women inclusion and driving what development.
People in Africa, where Africa is like teachers are told to ban her from going outside.
Sorry, there's a noise in the background.
I've been at school, she's probably been called on PA.
Can all speaker guests mute their mics, please? Because this is disturbing. Thank you very much. Thank you. The next slide. Okay, now when we look at South Africa and where we are in terms of the continental outlook, which is 2021, can you go back to the South Africa slide? Next one. Yeah, thank you very much. And this is a very important matter, because when you're looking at COVID-19 in terms of trade and recovery, and also looking at vaccinations and where we are sitting as Africa. And I think it's very important for us to understand, why is it important for us to vaccinate? Why is it important for us as women to drive the vaccination strategy across the continent? I mean, if you look at, across Africa, the response must be well sequenced and multi-pronged, involving private, public sector, so that we ease the liquidity constraints and solvency risks that we find ourselves in terms of our fiscal responses, in terms of actually looking at economic impact of the pandemic in our livelihoods as businesses, as citizens of the continent. But why I'm raising this thing, I think it's very important because COVID has taught us to collaborate. COVID has taught us to actually work together in Africa, in Europe, across the world. The next slide, please. Now, if you look at just statistics, the fastest growing countries, economies from the Euromonitor International, we have Ethiopia, we have Rwanda, we have Mozambique, and also Gauteng, where I'm sitting in the office in Bryanston. Gauteng is the 7th largest economy in Africa. sitting with 1.5 trillion and also 35% towards, the national GDP. And also where I am, which is the city of Johannesburg, it's actually contributing 16% to the national GDP and 40% to, Gauteng GDP. And why I'm mentioning this, where are women? We need to talk about women inclusion when you're talking about these, statistics. And the disaggregated data is also a challenge because women are not found in these statistics. And I think as we discuss and moving forward and talking about the role of women in Africa, we need to also make sure that when we talk about women, we have statistics on women. Where are they? What are they doing? What are their positions? And also looking at the continent, the top 5 countries that South Africa has been trading with, Botswana, Mozambique, Namibia, and Zambia. And the next slide, please. Now, if you look at where we are sitting because of COVID, COVID highlighted a lot of challenging issues of our economies because of the oil price and also the challenges that we're facing in hard commodities. Oil and gas make up earlier to 55% of exports across the continent. And hence it's very important to actually look at other alternative sources of energy. And I think the next speaker will be able to actually talk about that when we're actually talking about the issues of renewable energies. And I know all of us saw what happened at COP26, and also we're expecting women again to be leading such discussions, to be part of these important discussions. The next slide, please. Thank you very much. Now I'm coming to a very close topic to my heart. His Excellency Wamgele Mene was a guest speaker at the launch of the Circle of Global Business Women on the 15th of April this year. And if you look at the Africa Free Trade Agreement, it's the largest World Trade Organization. We're talking about 55 countries. We're talking about a combined GDP of about 3.4 trillion USD. And this is very important for us, and 1.3 billion. And if you're talking about 1.3 billion, where are women sitting in these statistics? And also the potential of lifting 30 million people out of poverty and raise the income of 68 million and others to live on less than 5.50 per day. So now why I'm saying is, if we're saying 30 million, and if we're working with the U.S.-Africa Trade Council in terms of investing and looking at women, we want to see women in this 30 million. We want to see women in this 68 million. And also trade facilitation as well that can cut the red tape, because there are a lot of red tapes in trade facilitation, especially on women. I'll cover that as we move forward. They can bring the boost of the African economy by 450 billion by 2035. And also, while it's adding to the 76 billion income to the rest of the world. This is amazing, but we want to see women as well being also as statistics to say, in this 76 billion, in this 450 billion, we have actually managed to actually come up with a certain percentage that belongs to women. Africa boasts over 400 African companies that earn an annual revenues of US 1.1 billion per year. And this is also very important for us to look at this 1 billion per year. Where are women sitting? What are the statistics that we need to actually make sure that women are included in these statistics? And women in the trade globally, women are actually half of the world's population. They only contribute to 37% to the global GDP. And this is a wide gap. And women can play a major role in global economy. And their investment is more widespread, and they can create a secure foundation of their families and communities while it's mitigating the social ills. When you empower women, you're empowering nations. When you empower women, you know that there's going to be an involvement in trade, and they create jobs for their families and for their nations. And women own close to 10 million of the world's small and medium enterprises, accounting to 80% of job creation around the world. And hence it's important to make sure that entrepreneurship and in fact women-led businesses in Africa are very important to take Africa to the next level. The next slide. Now, why we are saying the impact of women-led entrepreneurships in projecting as a global trade investment destination. Women make a major contribution in trade. In most African countries, women are pillars to the success of Africa's trade potential. Removing the obstacles of trade integration in Africa will be powerful and actually make it a point that women-led entrepreneurs in Africa, they survive and they thrive. And women in Africa carry most of the small-scale farmers and also cross-border, commerce that happens within the region. And women are overlooked by policymakers. And I want to actually to note this, my dearest sister Reshna, that now moving forward, women must not be overlooked by policymakers, because this has a negative impact on us as women in trade in the continent and also globally, because what it does is the lack of information on women in trade. This also makes an underrepresentation of small traders and rural producers in trade and trade policy decisions and discussions as well. Thank you very much. The next slide. Now, the key challenges that we face as women who are participating in global and regional value chains. Women are involved in the upstream of respective value chains, but they're not actually right at the core. And when they try to get into that space, and women are predominantly in the subsistence agriculture and part of the agricultural labor force. So it's very important to start and making sure that women get in both an international exports, but at the same time, they're effective in terms of market access so that they'll be able to effectively participate in the global value chains. The next slide, please. Now, what is the powerful impact on women-led projects in Africa? And I think this is, for me, a critical way forward that we need to engage as the US and Africa Trade Council. The review of trade agreements by member states to include women to fully participate in trade regionally and globally, for women to impact Africa as a global trade investment destination. Because we can't really ignore such important critical issues in terms of reform so that women will be able to participate. Gender and value chain linkages. We must be actually come up with programs that are critical for women entrepreneurs in Africa as a backbone, especially women-led businesses. Now, this is really an exciting one. I mean, if you look at gender and public, procurement linkages. I mean, annually at a global level, we have 15 trillion USDs that government passes to suppliers through procurement system. We only have 1% that goes to women. Now, if you look at South Africa, President Ramaphosa passed already a law that says that 40% of the public procurement bill in government should actually go to women. And this is something that we need to see happening in all the other member states in the continent so that women take their rightful position in terms of trade, because some of these will actually open up for women to participate in trade negotiations. And also looking at gender and trade in the context of, Africa Free Trade Agreement, opportunities through cross-border trade and integration of value chains, participation of public procurement systems for women is very important. Trade experts and trade negotiators should successfully integrate in the concerns on women-led SMEs. And the next slide. Thank you very much. Now, if you look at what the global support has done in terms of trade, we've got the World Trade Organization. For the first time, it's actually led by a woman of dignity and integrity, Dr. Ngozi. I mean, we've got 121 members at the WTO, and also observers agreed that there will be a women economic empowerment that was launched in 2017 for trade inclusivity. But the key objectives is raising awareness on the link between trade and gender. And I think that's very important, because in many times we tend to ignore the issues on trade and gender. But I think now, because they're coming up strongly, because WTO is actually making it and enforcing it to all member states globally, and also facilitating even the WTO members to action on trade and gender, and also generating new data, and how do member states make sure that women participate effectively in terms of technical assistance, trade policy reviews, data collection, women entrepreneurs program, and also empowering women through aid aid and trade and making sure that women take their rightful position in global markets and also in Africa. And the next slide. Thank you very much. Now I'm coming to what matters most, our strategic interventions for actually looking at all these, opportunities and challenges that I've spoken about, and in partnership with the U.S.-Africa Trade Council. We need to look at an exchange program with U.S. women associations to support African women entrepreneurs through the U.S.-Africa Trade Council. Women-led male colleagues to support women entrepreneurs in trade in Africa, incubation programs for women entrepreneurs in Africa, and be paired to our US peers in business, and also as an exchange program, and also a program to support in line that we can actually look at 20 entrepreneurs from the US and 20 entrepreneurs from Africa. And I think this is very important because these are tangible action plans that we can look at in terms of investing in African women entrepreneurs, and also networking and peer learning programs. And I think they're very important as well, because at the end of the day, we need to understand how we trade amongst each other. And also to say that there's been a norm that women cannot work together. But what I can say at the sake of global business women can work together, and we can actually make sure that we become a backbone of Africa when it comes to a global destination for trade and investment. But also what we need to do is we need to actually invest a lot in skills, invest a lot in infrastructure, invest a lot and in making sure that women understand their role and how to play that role in the continent in terms of entrepreneurship. The next slide, please. Now, our recommendations. We need men to lead the integration of women in the marketplace globally. And I think why I'm saying this, I mean, I was part of the Generation Equality in Paris since the Second Global Business Women is funded by the French Embassy in South Africa, now having a global office in Paris. I think it's very important. We can't talk about generation equality and not involving men. Men are very important, and to make sure that they take us to the right, destination in terms of C-suite, in terms of signing big deals. We want to work with men. Let men be the champions of actually leading, diversity, leading in women inclusion in everything that we do, and women playing a critical role in the implementation of trade between US and Africa, trade policies that are pro-women in the marketplace globally, that talks to women inclusion, entrepreneurship platform. You know why I'm raising this thing? Maybe I'm passionate about it, but a very good example. You have a woman in KwaZulu-Natal, my dearest sister Reshna, who is ripped down between the border post of South Africa and Mozambique and Guavuma. And we've got this powerful art and craft creation, and this woman doesn't know where to take the product to, but the product is needed out there in global markets. And how do we promote that woman in our own app or in our own website to make sure that it reaches the destination where women can participate fully? And also emerging, women, they're very important, rural women, township economy. We need to be inclusive when we're talking about women. That's why I mentioned women trade borders, because they're very important for us to thrive in the African continent. So you cannot concentrate to Cindy because he's a global president for the sake of global business women. No, we need to lift as we climb. We need to also reach out to all women in the continent and make sure women take their rightful position in terms of being in the mainstream of the economy. So hence, women-led companies driven by men delegation to invest in the continent, but also to make sure that we are not in competition with men. But what we are saying is our brothers work with us, take us to the C-suite. We want to actually be in strategic positions, but we want you to work with us and make sure that we take our positions. Now, our strategic collaborations following, these are the following organizations, in terms of inclusivity on women in trade, looking at the AFCFTA, I mean, the African Union has got an amazing, powerful women organization. It's called AULIN, the African Women Leaders Network. These are the women institutions in Africa that we need to partner with. Already they've launched 25 countries in the continent. And as the Circle of Global Business Women, we are working with AULIN to make sure that we drive such initiatives. And also we have the African Union Development Agency that works with women farmers across 5 countries as I speak right now in the continent. Then we have the WTO that is actually looking at the women in tourism. They're actually coming up with the powerful program that speaks to tourism. And one of the members that is actually responsible for Africa in the running of that tourism sector is actually Dr. Dimakatso Maluela, who's also a strategic partner to the Circle of Global Business Women. The World Bank is doing a lot of researches. I'm sure every time when I speak, I quote the World Bank. And how do you partner now with these amazing researchers and make sure that we turn around Africa and actually use women as the center and pillar of investments? And also the World Economic Forum for Africa, they've got a section that deals with empowering women as well. The IMF, I mean, here in South Africa, we have the IMF resident, Mr. Max earlier, as the Circle of Global Business Women. We are in partnership with the IMF in South Africa. We have the G20, the G7, the European Union, and all these powerful houses globally. They are actually, every time when they speak, there's Africa in it. And how do we also turn it around and say, we need to see women playing a critical role in making sure that we take our rightful position? I think that's my last slide. I would like to say thank you very much. And let us build the Africa that we want. And with these statistics and with these proposed programs that we've put into the table, we can actually say that Africa rise with women and make sure that women take their rightful position in the marketplace. And I'd like to say thank you very much to the U.S.-Africa Trade Council and looking forward working with you. But also what I'd like to say in my last parting shot, governments create an enabling environment, but the actual people that do the work, my dearest sister, it's business. So let us engage with business, big corporates, and make sure that they handhold us as women and take us to our destinies. Thank you very much.
Cindy, thank you so much. Wow. I mean, I think the word to describe is fire, absolute fire. Wow, absolutely amazing. And I love the way you know, obviously us women, we want to be empowered, but the part that really brings everyone together is when you said, men, we want you to take us, lead us, and actually take us to the bigger contracts and lead the entire economic discussion. You know, I'm always reminded, us women, in terms of who we are out there in the marketplace, and I love to quote this one. It's actually a song by Beyonce, which is the song Girls. It says, strong enough to raise the children and get back to business. I think that absolutely epitomizes exactly who us women are out there in the marketplace. And yes, you're doing an absolutely amazing job. We love it. You know, the economic empowerment of women is very close to my heart. So yeah, thank you for such an amazing presentation. Right now, I would like to go over to just pause for a bit for Q&A. So are there questions that anybody would like to ask all of the speakers thus far? Please feel free. You know, the actual roundtable is a discussion. It's actually a discussion. It's to say, how do we actually engage the speakers on the various aspects of commercial activity that we would like to actually engage in? So can I just hand over, raise your hand, and please ask the question. So far, our speakers are Dr. Gomo, Sindiswa, as well as Ms. Sindiswa Mzamo, as well as Ms. Rabia. Please, over to the audience. Any questions from your side? All right, everyone's very quiet. May I ask some questions? All right. So Dr. Gomo, are you still here? still here, Dr. Gomo?
I'm here.
Lovely. Thank you so much, sir. You raised some really important, comments around the interaction of the USA and Africa. You did say that you encourage and emphasize the actual proper interaction to create a global business network. Do you have perhaps, I believe in action plans. I believe that we have a bigger picture, and most of the time entrepreneurs don't know how to actually take it forward. So do you have some suggestions as to how you feel that we could engage on a greater scale within Africa and obviously the US? Perhaps maybe three comments around that is a little bit practical in terms of actual engagement for entrepreneurs.
No, thank you very much. I've been tracking discussions in Africa on aspects that you raise, and my understanding is that we have very active chambers of commerce and industry in most of our countries. These could be taken advantage of and maximized for the benefit of all. I don't know why they are very inward looking. This can create very loose networks that meet regularly, not ritualistically, and it would be nice that they meet for a purpose and a very specific purpose, and in this case to expand the boundaries and horizons of business, very deliberately so. You also have public institutions like your SACU, your SADC, your East African community or West African community. I can't think of any time when these have come together to exchange notes, COMESA and so, just to exchange notes and see exactly where the gaps are and what might need to be done. Yes, they meet sometimes at AU level. Now perhaps with the continental free trade area, they could have that kind of interaction. What worries me is that there may well be a lot of formality, and if it goes that way, the whole thing becomes a ritual, and sooner or later the ordinary entrepreneur is forgotten and lost. Governments have embassies throughout the world. Why not find a creative way to engage those embassies so that we can practically make sure that we maximize opportunities for expanding our business horizons? At the moment, most embassies are very much politically engaged. God bless you, but I doubt if there's a lot that comes out of the political engagement. I think if there was a very deliberate effort to increase the commercial activities of these embassies, it could help us more. And the last one would be the exchange of research by our centers of education, so that they are not just center specific. Let's have the VITs of this world and the Makereres and so on, exchanging information at that level, because these centers create the new.
We've lost you, Dr. Gomo. Okay, Dr. Gomo, we've lost you. Sorry, go ahead. Yes, you're back on. Go ahead. Okay, we're losing Dr. Gomo. I see he's also fallen off. Thank you very much. Look, the one thing I think, Dr. Gomo, you've raised is the fact that there's chambers of commerces and they play a very vital role in engaging with entrepreneurs. I happen to have, to sit on several boards at chambers in my career as an entrepreneur, and I do realize that predominantly chambers of commerce have been there to be very, very powerful organizations. And I do believe that entrepreneurs, business owners should actually engage with chambers of commerce. What you've also said, which is quite vital, is that now is the time for chambers of commerce to actually perform their role. So I really believe in that. And yeah, I totally endorse what you're saying. So I would like to encourage attendees, wherever you are, get involved with the chamber or chambers of commerce in terms of finding out. Obviously, there's membership fees to be paid, and you get access to so much of information. And I highly encourage that. So yes, we have Ms. Rabia as well, who's also runs a chamber of commerce. You're most welcome to contact her as well. Yeah, thank you very much for your response, Dr. Gomo. Over to you, Denitra.
We do have a couple of people with their hands up, so I'd like to acknowledge them. It looks like Dr. Sise. We'll go ahead and go with you first.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. I'm from Sise from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and I have some questions to some, especially for the last panelist. In Africa, is the challenges on global partnership and making a platform to connect business, especially for entrepreneurs. So how to solve especially the challenges in connecting businesses and other business partners, especially in developing countries from developed countries. So how it can be accessible to Africans, especially. Thank you.
I think I can take that one because I have an experience, an example. As the Circle of Global Business Women, we are now members for the International Chamber of Commerce in Paris. And that has actually helped us a lot because what it has done, it has opened a lot of doors for us, so much that now we actually sit at the UN Global Compact. We also, get invitations for if there's a UN General Assembly, we are invited. But I think what is important is you need to actually make sure that you get the right strategic partners, the value proposition, and what do you want to achieve out of a relationship? That's very important. And what value are you going to give in that relationship? So what I can say, my brother, you can just send inbox me, then we can actually take the discussions out of this so that we can actually look at where do you want to go, because I think what is a challenge in most African countries, especially with startups, especially with entrepreneurs, it's access to markets. And that's what we dealt with as the Circle of Global Business Women, where we strategically signed an MOU when we launched in the 15th of April this year with the French South African Chamber of Commerce that actually gave us an introduction to the International Chamber of Commerce. So this is the strategic positioning of any entrepreneur in a member state, in the continent, and also in global markets. Thank you.
Denitra?
The next question is from Joseph. Joseph, if you can go ahead and ask your question as well.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Joseph Kayembe. I'm based in Texas. I'm from the DRC Congo. I'm very happy to see the presentation for my fellow sister from South Africa. We even following a discussion with my wife next to me. She's sending a regard to it. So she loves you so much because it was very precise. We even discussed about we love the content of saying all these kind of things can be first happen when a man and woman gets in hand and move forward. That is the first thing. The second thing, Madam, I wanted to complete about what you are saying. I used to live in South Africa for 15 years, and then I came to America. We have a problem What that problem is just an idea I'm adding about the presentation, which is so powerful, and we love it. Let's talk about the DRC. Today, the DRC is part of SADC. We're talking about partnership and entrepreneur.
Yes.
Between the time I was in South Africa, 2005, till the time I leave, most of the consumable, we buy it in South Africa. Everything is exported in South Africa. But what the other doctor was saying, we need to separate politics and entrepreneurship. Why? Today, to get a visa, South Africa, everybody was coming to, and there was this entrepreneurship, the DTI were coming to make entrepreneurship, that relationship was moving forward. But today, to get a visa to come to South Africa, for a country which is a DRC, part of the SADC, it's a mission. When DRC is part of SADC, they don't give visa, but all the SADC countries can come to South Africa, to all the parties without a visa. How can we, like you are talking about this brilliant idea, how can we interact in terms of business?
Yeah.
Today, all the business was handling between South Africa and the DRC. I'm sorry, I'm not against the Chinese and Dubai. Went to Dubai, why? They give opportunity of these people to come on giving e-visa. So money which was coming, this is part of also destroying the economy of South Africa based on the political situation. My concern is today we have big opportunity in the mining, alternative energy, like we are doing infrastructure. I came to South Africa, I spent there 3 weeks just to get experts to help me to build the new city in the DRC. I sit there, but for me to I leave America, come to South Africa, put a team of engineers who are helping me to build a project in South Africa. But guess what? The visa is a problem from both sides. The visa is expensive. But this is what you are talking about. For me, my advice is politicians have to change a way of thinking. What they are making us dream about, the One Africa, all this Africa Union, everything, we mustn't show that for Africa to move, we just need, why European Union, they are together. They remove all these barriers. People interact, they do business among themselves. But if we start consider that, we start also consider that the madam who's talking, she's my sister. She's my fellow friend. I met her, I don't care, I can share my idea with her based on what she's saying. This is what Africa must start thinking. And I pay tribute of all these people are fighting against each other, Ethiopia, DRC, because politics is destroying the vision you are talking about, the vision of Ubuntu, the vision of working together. Politicians must help us to reunite again. Politicians must help us to have that Africa, a man and woman could go together to do the agriculture together. And they come back home with food to give to their kids. That Africa we need. Yeah. People who are together, people who love each other, people who don't, we remove that together. I beg you guys, such things have to be completed with love and accepting this border in Africa. I'm not Julius Malema, but I think borders mustn't be a problem, which will facilitate business transaction. That is very important. I love you guys. Thank you so much. I'm still part of what you are talking about. God bless you.
God bless you too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, can I just quickly respond? Joseph, you raised such a good point. And I think that, these things have got to be, openly addressed, perhaps at other forums and so forth. But there's some good news out there. And in the South African context, I think we need to talk about the good stories as well. Citizens, business champions, academics, professionals are actually getting together. So I'm going to talk about South Africa, if that's okay, because that's where I'm sitting. And other countries as well in Africa, they are actually getting together and they helping to lift the economy. They in their own special spaces, working with countries like the USA, the UK, and like what you're doing, Cindy, so as well. And behind the scenes, trust me, there's a huge amount of pushback. huge amount of pushback.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you will see and hopefully 2022 will actually start to
yeah.
manifest all of these opportunities.
Yeah.
I think there's some very
Yeah.
ordinary people in the world, South Africa, the continent of Africa as well, that quietly have been getting on with a lot of stuff, and you will see it start to manifest in 2022. The other thing to take into consideration is the fact that, you know, you can't always wait for government to lead. Government will do what it does in terms of policy and policy changes. And yes, we must actually drive those policy changes. But within the U.S.-Africa Trade Council, I cannot tell you how much of, not I cannot tell you, I want you to know that there's a lot of trade going on because entrepreneurs just dive in and do what they need to do. And that's what entrepreneurs are known for. So hopefully, Joseph, that does, you know, put a different spin on opportunities that are available out there. So I think, you know, with people like the U.S.-Africa Trade Council, the Global Forum of Women Entrepreneurs with Sindiswa, I can tell you that there's a lot that's going to change in 2022.
Absolutely.
And yeah, there's so much to look forward to. Thank you so much. Over to you, Denise.
Sorry, Sabi, just to add on what my dear sister has said, there's a lot that is going behind the scenes, Joseph, to address, to address the issues that you've raised, issues of visa, issues of customs, you know, SACU, the SADC region, and also the African heads of states. They are saying, let us build one Africa, one nation. So this is a top agenda. For your own information, I was humbled to attend a high panel discussion by the former African heads of state that was talking about silencing the guns, that was talking about the role of women in the African continent. How do women and young people become drivers of the continent in terms of stability? So there's a lot that is going on behind the scenes. In 2022, some of these discussions that we're seeing now as challenges, our heads of states will come up with solutions and making sure that we build the Africa that we want. And thank you very much, my brother, for raising such important questions and issues.
Okay, we do have another question from Mr. Talito. You have the floor, sir.
Okay, thank you. I am Nkuna Eyob from Ethiopia. I'm a civil engineer and a construction contractor. I have a question for one of the speakers called Sindwasa or something like that. I, for one, has an attitude that men's and women's are all equal. Hence, I believe providing equal opportunities to my daughter, sister, mother, and wife, because in whatever manner we draw borders in humans regarding sex, age, after all, men and women are one family, we are the same. But here my real question comes, could there be a women encouragement initiative in this council to be implemented, like teaching support and market barrier brokerage? I don't know this council before, just it's my new meeting. But if you are not able to do that, I think that we are always, when we are discussing in women's and sexual matters, just I feel that I am just monsterizing women's. I don't mean that this council would do that. I hope it didn't. But is there be any possibility that when the market should be considered? Thank you.
Rashida, did you want to respond to that?
Thank you so much. I see Cindy was smiling, and I think she may want to say that something as well. Look, I think that in terms of, I think the danger lies in the fact that, you know, when we raise issues of women empowerment and when we raise issues of economic empowerment of women, the danger is that men tend to think, now where's our space, which is quite not true. And Sindiswa has said it, you know, there are so many opportunities out there. And I would highly suggest that we, you know, how do you leverage off those opportunities is what you need to ask yourself. So if it actually means that you need to bring in, you know, women into your business so that you can leverage off these opportunities, why not? You know, any opportunity to be able to trade, you know, to break those barriers, like you're saying, is something that you need to list. It requires a paradigm shift. It requires a space to say, how do I actually, you know, attain more business? What do I do? And it really is not about gender. It's about empowerment and capabilities and merit and the ability of women to bring their fair share to the table, which they are currently doing, is to recognize these opportunities. What I do want to again emphasize is to join. Okay, yes, there are women-owned organizations, there are women-run organizations, organizations only for women, but there are also chambers, and chambers are linked to these such organizations. So yes, please join an entity like a chamber of commerce or a business council and start to network in that way. You know, these things don't get given. You've got to go and take it. So it's important, again, I emphasize that that's what the U.S.-Africa Trade Council is all about, is to provide these platforms for engagement, for meaningful trade. And that's what I hope that does actually answer the question and gives you a better idea as to what are you doing that you should be doing differently to be able to get business. And it's not all about, it's not a gender issue in the sense that women are getting more opportunity. Women must, Cindy said we're getting 1%, guys. So, you know, we've got to take it a lot. We've got to take it up a notch. But you can see how powerful it is to engage a woman in your business. It really is. I see it happening daily in my own business life. Thank you so much, Denitra. Any other questions before we move on to our next speaker? Any other questions, Denitra?
Did anyone also want to share any of the obstacles that they're having before we move on?
I think, Denitra, just to add on what my dearest sister is saying, I think what is very critical and important engaging with men is the sector of global business women, because we're an organization that has came forward to say we are working with men, and we've seen men embracing us. Some of them, they'll say, oh, we're really scared to come to you because we thought these women are feminists, you know, but it's not about that. We've got male feminists as well. But I think it's the approach in the marketplace. That's why my brother is engaging it. I think in his experience, he might have met women that are very aggressive, that are not actually, you know, looking at working with men. And now here is Cindy talking about something different. And now he gets his shock of his life. But what I'm saying is we need to have a dialogue amongst men to say, let us engage, my brother. What are your fears? How can I alleviate those fears? As Cindy, as the president for the sector of global business women, let me handhold you, trust me, and let me trust you to take me to my destiny. And also leadership, it's not about gender as what Reshna is saying. Leadership is about Cindy taking the rightful position and leading and making sure she is leading with integrity and dignity, leading both men and women in the society. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Did anyone else have anything before we move on? Okay, so we're going to move right on to our next speaker. Her name is Danielle Agreste. I did introduce her earlier. She is the country manager for Southern Africa at the U.S. Trade and Development Agency. Danielle, thank you for joining us today, and you have the floor.
Peace. Well, thank you so much, and good morning or afternoon to all, depending on where you are. As noted, my name is Danielle Agreste. I am USTDA's country manager covering the Southern Africa portfolio. I'm based in Washington, D.C., and it's just a pleasure to be speaking with all of you today about project preparation for clean energy projects in sub-Saharan Africa. So I would like to begin by providing an overview of USTDA's program and tools, and then talk about our work in the clean energy sector in sub-Saharan Africa. I'm not sure, there's a PowerPoint presentation as well, if that's able to be shared, but otherwise I can just go ahead with my presentation without it. So USTDA is the US government's project preparation agency. We work alongside and in support of US companies to further the development of large-scale infrastructure projects in emerging markets. We are a US company demand-driven agency, so we go and work where US companies are competitive. We have a dual mission focused on both developmental impacts as well as US exports. So USTDA helps companies create US jobs through the export of US goods and services for priority infrastructure development projects in emerging markets. So USTDA links US businesses to export opportunities by funding project preparation and partnership building activities that develop sustainable infrastructure and foster economic growth in partner countries. We work primarily across our 5 priority sectors, which are energy, ICT, transportation, healthcare, and agribusiness. We really work across the value chain of these sectors. But the main focus of my presentation today is on the clean energy sector. And in that sector, we work in everything from renewable energy, including wind, solar, and energy storage, to transmission and distribution of power, and even off-grid and mini-grids. We have a robust portfolio of exciting clean energy projects we're supporting across the continent. And so in order to achieve our mission, we have 2 main sets of tools. And so for the first, we can provide grant funding for project preparation. And so through this tool, we can award grants to a local project sponsor for a US contractor to conduct a feasibility study, technical assistance, or pilot project. And so this comprehensive analysis will help bring a project from concept phase to financial close, really supports projects to be structured bankably and attract implementation financing. Generally, USTDA looks to support infrastructure projects with strong project sponsors, projects that would have a positive impact on the economic development of the country where the project is located, and a significant potential for US goods and services to be utilized for project implementation, as well as projects that are economically viable and likely to attract implementation financing. We engage in projects at the project preparation stage, so providing support prior to financial close. So we're involved in the feasibility stage, project development, or project structuring phases, but we don't work in pre-feasibility or past financial close. And also as a brief note on our pilot projects, USTDA's pilot projects help demonstrate the business case for the utilization of commercially viable US equipment and technology in overseas settings, which also yields development opportunities for scalability and replicability throughout emerging markets. So just to note that USTDA cannot fund the equipment itself, but rather we fund the associated analysis to help develop the business case for scalability and replicability. For our second bucket of tools, we have partnership building activities. So this includes reverse trade missions, conferences, and technical workshops. We can support these events that have an overall goal of convening US stakeholders with foreign delegations to highlight how US goods and services can support upcoming project and procurement opportunities in a specific market and sector. And so overall, as a demand-driven agency, our programming is determined based on a few factors, including where we perceive the best opportunity for US companies, balanced with the developmental impact mandate of our agency. This is the correct slide, thank you. In terms of criteria, if we could go one slide back, there are a few things that we consider when assessing projects for our funding, in addition to other factors on a case-by-case basis. So firstly, we assess the capability, commitment, and wherewithal of the project sponsor to implement the project. So we'll ask questions like, is the proposed sponsor a local entity? Do they have past experience successfully implementing a similar type of large-scale infrastructure project? And then I also wanted to note that USTDA can work both with the public and private sector project sponsors, as well as PPPs and JVs. Secondly, is the project a local priority and a priority of the government? Another criteria that we look at is what is the likelihood of financing for project implementation? And this is something that we assess to understand whether internal funding or external financing for the project is realistic for the project to be implemented. And additionally, we assess whether the project involves the use of US proven technologies. So essentially, we are not in the business of answering the question, is this a good idea? but rather we look to answer the question of how can we take this good idea and make it bankable. And then along the lines of our US export mandate, USTDA assesses the potential that the project holds for export of US equipment, software, or services upon project implementation. So we don't have a minimum threshold, but projects that are more competitive for our funding tend to hold a potential for at least $10 to $15 million of US exports. So the next slide is grant eligibility requirements. USTDA's grants don't have a prescribed minimum or maximum amount, but typically range from between 500,000 to 1.5 million US dollars. That amount is based on the scope of work that the US contractor would carry out on behalf of the overseas project sponsor. And then I also wanted to briefly note that one criteria for USTDA support is that a US firm must be involved in completing the project preparation work, whether that firm is pre-identified at the time of submitting a proposal to USTDA or brought on board through an RFP process following a USTDA grant award. And so now I'd like to switch a little bit to take a moment to highlight a USTDA initiative that supports our program in sub-Saharan Africa. So in April, President Biden launched USTDA's Global Partnership for Climate Smart Infrastructure. This partnership leverages USTDA's project preparation expertise, as well as partnership building activities to support the use of US technologies and services in overseas climate smart infrastructure projects. And by focusing on resilient and low carbon infrastructure solutions in the energy and transportation sectors, the Global Climate Partnership will drive the adoption of transformational technologies that reduce greenhouse gas emissions and support resiliency to climate change. The initiative will leverage public and private sector finance to catalyze the net zero transition and help countries and communities respond to climate impacts. And so under this initiative, USTDA had announced a call for proposals that closed recently, and we received by far the most proposals of any region in sub-Saharan Africa. We look forward to addressing this demand through growing our pipeline of climate smart projects on the continent. And I'm now going to speak briefly to our clean energy sector portfolio across sub-Saharan Africa, where as noted, we have a robust portfolio and supported numerous projects across the sector. So for the first example, we are supporting a feasibility study for a Nigerian company called Sosai Renewable Energies Company to connect more than 200,000 women, farmers, and rural citizens to new solar-powered mini-grids in 3 Nigerian states. So the feasibility study will include site surveys, preliminary engineering, economic and financial analyses, and an assessment of the project's likely developmental impacts on rural women. And USTDA's study will create business opportunities for US equipment and service suppliers in Nigeria's mini-grid sector, while supporting up to 20 megawatts of new solar power in rural communities. And as another example, USTDA supported the Golamati JCM Solar Corporation, or JCM, with a feasibility study for a 20 megawatt solar power plant with a battery storage system in Malawi. And after the successful conclusion of the study, the construction of the solar plant began earlier this year. And this project is anticipated to be the first utility scale solar plant with a battery system in the country and would increase and diversify the sources of electricity supply in Malawi. Next slide, please. So just wanted to note, in terms of how to work with USTDA, please reach out if there's a project that meets USTDA's criteria and could benefit from our support. You're also welcome to propose concepts and participants for the workshops and reverse trade missions that we host. I am happy to share my email address in the chat since I unfortunately won't be able to stay for the Q&A, but please feel free to engage with me directly. And thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you so much, Danielle. As usual, very insightful. And yes, I think that we're very, very proud at the U.S.-Africa Trade Council to be affiliated with USATD And, for those who actually understand what USATD does, I think it's really, TDA, sorry, it's really important to actually engage through the U.S.-Africa Trade Council. I know that my colleagues would have set up the address and the contact details in the chat for you to actually engage with us. Grant funding is available. There's obviously, criteria in terms of how that can be accessed. Clearly, Danielle has mentioned that it would have to be with engagement of a U.S. business. Thank you so much, Danielle. We really appreciate the time that you've taken out to do a presentation and to share with us the information around USTDA. Thank you so much. Again, I just want to remind the attendees, as she said, she's not going to be available to take any questions because she's got to leave, but you're most welcome to ask those questions and we will be glad to respond to them at a later stage. Please, give us your email address so that we can respond. Our last speaker for today is we're actually quite excited to have Craig O'Connor. Craig currently serves as the Director of Business Development, Environmental Exports within the Project and Structured Finance Division. Craig works closely with environmental exports, international customers, and project developers to create bankable project structures. Craig began his career at the bank in January 1993 as a loan officer for the Middle East and North Africa, was appointed as the bank's environmental liaison officer in 1994 and also served as a director for international business development from 1998 to 2008, where he covered the Asia Pacific, Latin America regions. In 2008, he created the bank's Renewable Energy Business Development Initiative. In the years since this initiative was launched, the bank has authorized over $2 billion in support of renewable energy exports. In addition to his position at the bank, Craig serves as an adjunct professor of international business and international project finance at Georgetown University, where he has taught continuously since 1997. Mr. O'Connor, over to you. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much. It's a great honor to be here with you today, and I've enjoyed the previous presentations. And I have to say that there's so many great presentations by so many ladies, and now I feel like the thorn among the roses, as they would say in the Middle East. So it's great. I mean, I love the remarks about empowering women. I mean, look, it's just simple economics. I mean, if you can crowd in greater purchasing power on the better half of the sky, as John Lennon used to say, that just helps us all, right? I mean, it's just simple, cold-hearted economics reason to empower women. I'm also proud of my career that I used to be the director of a strategic initiative. So I was the bank's environmental liaison officer since 1994, but we also created a minority business development initiative based on what we had done for the Environmental Exports Council. And I'm proud to say that our senior vice president, Tammy Maxwell, heads that up, and that's been an enormous success. But it's just ownership, right? It's just somebody that will take an interest in helping women-owned business get started. So I just couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
Very, very inspired by what I heard today, so thank you. I do have a presentation. I can try to share my presentation, or we could have it loaded up on your side, whatever you think is easier.
Yeah, you should be able to share it, Craig.
Okay, let me try that. Okay, everybody can see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. All those Zoom classes at Georgetown paid off. Okay, so today I'll briefly talk about, and this presentation is created more as a reference for you, as a takeaways, but I'll just briefly go through this. And it's good that we're following up U.S. Trade and Development Agency, because they provide feasibility study grants, and Exim Bank can provide financing to help those grants crystallize into larger projects. So Exim Bank, by way of introduction, excuse me one second. You can see this part of the presentation, right? Let me get my I'll get my slide share going again. Okay, here we go. Somehow I'm having an issue getting it full screen. Can everybody see this okay here as it sits now?
Yeah, at the very end, bottom right-hand corner, just before the slide, there's a little square. Click onto that at the very bottom right-hand corner. Yeah, no, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
All
Yes.
right. So brief overview, Ex-Im Bank is a New Deal agency established by Franklin Roosevelt in 1934 to basically provide financing where it didn't otherwise exist. And we know in 1934, we had a Great Depression, and Ex-Im Bank really plays a counter-cyclical role. So in times of distress, Ex-Im Bank is there to provide liquidity and finance for the global market to finance the export of US-made goods and services. And that could run from batteries to solar modules, to Boeing aircraft, to licenses. It runs the gamut. We had quite an uptick in 2008. We provide direct loans in US dollars and also loan guarantees. We're also long history of being in the forefront of projects important for US exporters, international customers. Ex-Im, so we provide direct loans, which is, as it sounds, a direct loan from US Ex-Im Bank to creditworthy foreign international customers. We also provide loan guarantees. Loan guarantees provide 100% full faith and credit US government guarantee of a loan that a commercial bank might make to an African entrepreneur, or to a bank, to a government to pursue those areas. Special enhancements for renewable energy, for water treatment. And so under the OECD arrangements, we can go out to the full 18 years. So long history in Africa. First transaction on the continent was with Angola in 1942 during the World War II years, and provided financing in Ethiopia in 1944 to support recovery projects. We've been working in Nigeria since 1961, authorized 1.3 million to support the construction of a flour mill, and in 1962 supported the construction of the Akosombo Dam on the Volta River in Ghana, and also 110 million to build an aluminum smelter. Now, it's not just ancient history, but more recent projects were open in 44 of the 49 countries across sub-Saharan Africa. We authorized a loan of 4.7 billion to support the export of US goods and services with 68 US suppliers, multiple areas, to supply an integrated LNG project in northern Mozambique you might have heard of. We provided $11 million loan guarantee supporting the exports of locomotives for Gabon's railway system, and supporting design engineering, construction services in Senegal. And this will actually be for rural electrification, so very proud of this. And another close to $6 million loan guarantee to support agricultural equipment to Kagera Sugar Limited. So there's any number of areas. And clearly, as we've seen, and Titus, I loved your point this morning about, if you're not doing business in Africa, you're not doing business. And that is so true. When you consider, if you project out the next 50 years about where global business is going, it's clear that Africa is the future. So, I mean, this could be infrastructure in many ways. Africa's leapfrogging the West in terms of technology. Think about cell phones. In energy, think about distributed energy. Think about a solar module connected to a battery, maybe connected to a small gas turbine that provides a mini grid or microgrid. And so you don't have transmission wires running down highways like we did in the United States. So you have on-site distributed energy that clearly gives you energy reliability, but it also provides energy at a much more cost-effective way than, for example, a diesel-fired generator. And those generators don't always start up when you want them to. That happens. So Ex-Im Bank generally, and for example, it doesn't have to be a U.S. company. So Siemens manufactures wind turbines that we could finance. Just one example. So as long as it's U.S. made equipment, and as long as it's 51% U.S. content, if the transaction is competing, has Chinese competition, other competition, we're able to support that exports. Now, we do look for reasonable assurance of repayment. And for me, this is what's kept the job interesting for 29 years, is it's a challenge. It's, how do you structure, work with the importer, work with the exporter to find that there's a reasonable assurance of repayment. And three main ways we do this, I mean, really four. I mean, the old-fashioned way was have a Ministry of Finance guarantee, so we can make or guarantee loans to sovereign governments. We can also make loans. Somebody's mic's not muted, okay. And we can also lend to companies, right? So as long as there's a current credit report, there's 3 years audited financial statements, a commercial bank reference, we can make that financing available as well. And I also should say that Exim Bank does not have a minimum size project. We don't have a maximum size project. And so work with us and we'll figure out, you know, the best approach, the best structure. We also have limited recourse project finance, and that was the Mozambique case, where basically you have a special purpose company that's formed just to execute and operate that particular project. And so the repayment for Exim Bank's loan or loan guarantee is based on the cash flows generated by that project. And then there's what I would say was a hybrid. So there's an in-between, a structured finance approach where maybe it's not full-blown non-recourse. Maybe we're still looking at a balance sheet of an entrepreneur, but maybe the entrepreneur's balance sheet's a little light, but maybe they have a contract to supply electricity or treated water to another entity. And so we can look at the cash flows from that contract as a source of repayment. So anyway, there's various ways we can work to arrive at a reasonable assurance of repayment. So loan guarantee, I'd mentioned just more as a reference, I won't go through this whole slide. Again, it's 100% full faith and credit U.S. government guarantee. And so what that means is that the interest rates are lower than they otherwise would be. The terms are longer than they otherwise would be. We can certainly be a source of financing for banks in Africa. So it may be that the Exim Bank, we're based in Washington, D.C. We have U.S. regional offices. We don't have international offices, unfortunately. But we've had great banking partners in Africa over the years. So Exim Bank could be a source of long-term, low interest rate financing for banks within Africa who could then on-lend that credit to entrepreneurs. So, you know, we continually look for partnerships and that's the way to do it. I think, you know, another quote from somebody today was like, look, you know, to grow business, you can't do it alone. You've got to create partnerships. And that's so true with Exim Bank. So one project I wanted to mention to you, this was our deal of the year this year. And I'm very proud of this because I brought the deal in, but I also was the loan officer and actually analyzed the case. And the reason I mentioned this, and stay tuned because we have a few of these in the pipeline for Africa. But this one was our first distributed solar project in Guatemala. So 18-year loan guarantee is about $9.5 million for Provident Bank of Boston. They provided a loan to Kruger Energy, Montreal, Canada-based company, but they were the developer, the owner, the operator of a solar project in Guatemala. That basically, they structured it as a 35-year lease to a paper mill. And you're thinking, well, what does a paper mill want with a solar energy project? Well, first of all, it gives them all the power they need. It provides them a reliable source of electricity, you know, no more diesel generators, no more uncertain price fluctuations from buying from the grid. You know, you're controlling your destiny because you've got your own energy source. And oh, by the way, it reduces your annual energy cost by $100,000. So this is kind of, you know, what's not to like, as we say on this one. So clearly, distributed energy can be replicated throughout the Americas, but cross out Americas and put in Africa. And you've got it's even more compelling in Africa. And given the benefits to energy consumers, reliable on-site direct power, the cost savings from solar is the cheapest source of generation worldwide. You combine that with batteries that have become increasingly cost competitive. And there's a number of US battery suppliers, Tesla, you've probably heard of, but there's also energy storage systems. They make an iron flow battery, and there's EOS that makes a zinc flow battery, and Ambri that makes a molten salt battery. So this is, you know, we live in great times in many ways. We live in challenging times, but also great times because we have technology that is emerging rapidly. We have long-term finance that can enable the benefits of this technology to be realized. And so, again, think about this as a model for other projects throughout Africa, even if you're a university. I mean, look, if you've got a mini grid, you've got standby backup power that is going to be reliable and cost effective. So one of the other deals that's kind of I think is a good model for other replication is India decided, you know, we've got tremendous sunlight, and anybody that's been to Rajasthan in the summer knows that because it's bloody hot. So look, you know, rather than importing oil and gas and the logistical challenges of coal, it's much more cost effective to promote solar. So the Indian government has a national solar mission where they want to get you know, hundreds of thousands of megawatts from solar. And so we worked with developers within India, and this was the National Solar Mission program that the government came out with. There's a creditworthy source of buying the power. So then for Exim Bank, it's looking at, okay, can these companies successfully execute and operate the project? Does the technology work? We know the technology does because we worked with First Solar and other US suppliers of the technology. Is there a sufficient cash flow from the sale of electricity? We determined that there was. So not only was Exim Bank the first financial institution to finance a national solar mission project, we financed the first 9 because we developed a franchise, if you will. And so I would love to see, you know, other governments throughout Africa, you know, emulate this or obviously, you know, adjust it to the local conditions. But if you think about distributed solar, you think about solar energy, you're using indigenous resources, right? So you don't have the logistical challenges. You're also not shelling out hard currency to import fuel, right? So utilization of domestic energy is a winner. We did the same thing in Peru. We financed the first Peruvian wind project. Again, there's a role for everybody to play. And so basically the government provided a certain floor for the power and the cost of power, which was again lower than other competing sources of power. And so this was enough, along with technology that was made by a German company, Siemens, but they manufactured wind turbines in Kansas to be able to put this project in place. So conclusion, we support short, medium, long-term financing to creditworthy international customers, working capital guarantees to US exporters. I didn't even mention that under export credit insurance program, US suppliers could offer credit lines to importers in Africa, whether it's for grain, whether it's for small unit value items. So, you know, our programs really run the gamut. Again, the main thing is to look for, you know, competitive US technology. So I think we can be a solution in a lot of areas. I think we're you know, to steal President Biden's phrase, we're building back better. And so we're creating a new global business development group to outreach. And so that's why I'm so honored today to be with you, and I look forward to the partnerships that we create in the future. So thank you so much. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Craig. That was most insightful. And yes, I think the renewable energy space, solar, wind, and so forth is such a hot topic at the moment across the globe, actually. And there are so many opportunities for projects in Africa. So yes, thank you very, very much for a very insightful presentation. Right at this point in time, I think we need to take questions to Craig because Daniel is not here. So are there any questions? There are. Denitra, can I ask you to go ahead?
Did anyone have any questions? You can just raise your hand. I'll be able to unmute you and allow you.
Raise my hand.
Oh. I'm ready.
Thank you. Thank you very much. For me, it's not a question, Craig, is to acknowledge the powerful presentation, because knowledge is power. And when you don't have knowledge, you're not powerful. But today I'm really empowered on the programs that you're offering, including the US Trade and Development Agency, because I was also participating in the COP26. It was quite fascinating. And also, if you look at the Paris Agreement and how do we keep the law 1.5, you know, and also the tough engagements that we saw taking place in Glasgow, it was quite amazing. But now already we are actioning to actually talk about renewable energy projects. What really inspired me was former President Barack Obama said, the real challenge is not what we are talking about today. The real challenge is actually the miners of coals in these countries that we're talking about. And I think for us now to sit and engage, we're actually preparing for a clearly defined implementation strategy that says renewable is key, renewable is the future. And how do we start planning and make sure that our implementation plan and the exit strategy of the coal miners, be it in any country globally, it's phased out in a very dignified manner. And I like this presentation because it says we are open to work with you. We are looking for strategic partnerships in terms of phasing in and making it an implementable strategy in terms of clean energy in any country in the continent. So we're really humbled and honored as the SECLA as well. And also the role of women in clean energy is very important, Craig, because I used to serve as an advisor of an organization called the African Utility Week. And I'm in the energy sector. But what really broke my heart was the issue of women and young girls when they go out there to go and fetch wood. And some of them, they're going to be raped. And these are the issues that we need to also, in discussion of the new renewable energy strategies, how do we make sure that the products that we provide, it will eliminate the challenges that are existing now in terms of electricity poverty in the continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No, I couldn't agree more. And there's any number of companies such as PowerHive, where basically it's a pay-as-you-go system, right? Where have we heard that before? Cell phones, right? And so they can have a centralized site where they manage the solar modules, right? I mean, the consumer doesn't have to manage the solar modules. Thank goodness I don't have to manage energy. You know, I can't put anything together. So basically what they do is they run a wire to the house. And if you can only afford 2 hours of electricity, fine, you know, prepay it. And you'll see, and what Mo Ibrahim saw is that if you create this enabling infrastructure, it will result in economic activity that will improve people's lives. We can say the same with energy. So instead of having to collect firewood, forget that, because now you've got a wire that goes to your house. And, you know, because the sun's been shining all day, or you've got a small biogas turbine, you kick the battery on at night, there's no need for anybody to do that. It also provides security because now you have lighting.
Yeah.
So it's a quality of life improvement. And, you know, I mentioned solar and renewables, but we also have modular water treatment systems. And so in a similar way. And so clearly this last mile, and Zola is another company that does similar work in Tanzania. I mean, there's a lot of companies that do this. So in a similar way, utilities could say, well, look, I'm going to give a franchise to, you know, one of these renewable energy service companies or water companies to provide this power to consumers. So I think all of us working together can solve this, and it's important.
Absolutely.
Joseph, you have the floor.
I'm really sorry. It's not like I'm talking too much, but it's very amazing today. I'm very blessed because I came to this meeting unexpectedly. I didn't know what I was coming to look for, but I can see this is a blessing from God. Craig, one question. Can you be my friend?
Of course.
Okay, I'm from Congo. I'm a project developer. I'm running, last year, we did our first groundbreaking of a project for 1,000 megawatt in Kinshasa. I've been the project coordinator. This is I've got 2 PPA agreements I've signed in the DRC. The second one we're doing with a Turkish company, but that is on a project which is gonna be, the electricity will be used with the LPG gas. I'm also, because my company is in your portfolio: environment and alternative energy.
Sure.
So we are also working on the project in terms of water treatment, because I've signed with our Minister of Energy to assist to have what you call a waste hub in the DRC. As you can see in Congo today, everyone is talking like you're talking about batteries, cobalt, copper. It's so sweet and very beautiful to hear that, but people are not talking about the effect in terms of pollution about all those. You know, they just mentioning the transformation. And also we, with my team, as I was saying before, we working close with, we've got many expertise in South Africa, because our country, as you know, is, there is not much expertise, except we people who are going outside. So we are planning, we have signed with our Minister of Energy to put a waste hub where all these projects will be combined, especially the water treatment. You know, there are lot of things I can't talk, because it's binding me with a non-disclosure agreement, but very good opportunity. But it needs people like you who understand the environment to assist with developing a couple of projects in the mining area, also in alternative energy. There was a former lady who was talking about the XIM. I think the other project we have is for the extension of the city of Kinshasa. For those who have been in the DRC, Kinshasa is very congested. We're running a project called Kimpaville. So these are, I think if you give me time to meet you, we can do some of the presentation. We would like to be accompanying. There is many. The US and everybody, because these are international projects. So as I say, I would like to, if you may allow it, to be hand in hand in you, based on what we are running. I'm young, but you've got experience. Certain way of doing things without costing too much money, because we're spending a lot of money because of lack of expertise in the DRC. So when you look at our project, like we're talking about also to see how to empower women in our country. There was a fellow brother was talking about Ethiopia. Maybe they misunderstood him, but me understand because of our culture in the country like Congo. I have a manager, she's from South Africa. My sister knows a Kosa woman. She's an engineer, on chemical engineer. But for her to be accepted as an engineer in my environment, because I'm empowering a woman and I'm promoting her. She's the CEO of my environmental company, which deal with the mine. What my Ethiopian brother was saying, it's a bit difficult for some country where African, they don't accept women expertise easily. So your experience, this platform is teaching me a lot to understand how to do those kind of approach strategically. These are powerful women, intelligent women who are talking here. I'm so proud. Also, some of the women I'm giving just an example in my country, and you see, they from their childhood tell them that they can't challenge things. They can't integrate these phenomenal opportunity I'm seeing here. So the brother from Ethiopia was also saying, how can we assist and help or lobby to change the mind of those women who can also do something for what we are talking about, for the benefits of the country. We have a lot of women unemployed compared to South Africa. South Africa is one of the countries I've seen have empowered a lot of women. In the road, you see women are building road as well. They're involved, and that's so wonderful and beautiful to see, like we see in America here. This country of ours, we have to do some lobby. So I would like to get experience and to be part. Don't reject me, guys. I'm promoting what we are doing in the DRC. It's not easy, but it's difficult for transferring what we have as knowledge in this country, the US and South Africa, to a country based also on some cultures as well. Projects are very huge we have, but it's going very slowly because of an adaptation of the knowledge you guys have been moved, like talking about Mozambique, all those places. We got phenomenal project, but for me, it's to have advice to all these friends to assist us to integrate. We got 4 mega projects, they're very beautiful. If you can help us to integrate women on teaching them how to take responsibility from themselves. They are there, many of them, they don't like they want to be taken care of by men. So this, what I'm listening here, it's something, a very good platform to help us also to bring that revolution in our country and to move very forward. Thank you very much, Craig. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And I would like to give you that respect.
Yeah, can I just quickly add, Joseph, to what you're saying before Craig, you respond? I think thank you so much, in the way you've embraced the fact that women are so powerful in business. But what I want to also say is that you will find that the women that are representing women in business are doing exactly that, training and teaching their sisters and actually lifting as we rise. So again, it's actually so important to acknowledge the fact that women-led organizations, chambers of commerces and so forth are empowering women in terms of teaching, in terms of training, in terms of skills development. I have sent you a private message. I am a facilitator of funding for renewable energy projects. So you are most welcome, and others, so you're most welcome to just pick up the message on your chat and also contact me so we can liaise with Craig as well. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you so much.
I think you want to respond.
No, thank you, Joseph, and I look forward to speaking with you in the future. And I think it really starts early. So I have one of each. I have 8-year-old twins, and my daughter puts Legos together just like her brother, and she's got great talents. I just think you support the girls from a young age. You create role models. One of my students from about 2004, 2005 was a young woman, Fatima Ducci, and she was in my class at Georgetown, international business class, fantastic, A student, one of my best students ever. Well, now she's head of marketing for Mohammed Dewji in Tanzania, and she's a great role model for other women. There's no question, but I think we need to create pathways, all of us, to enable that to happen.
Ma'am, I want to, because you are talking about Chamber of Commerce and I think organization. I don't want to be talking badly about my country. I'm not insisting this because most of the country where we're talking and where we live, when you see the country I've been through, when you talk about the Chamber of Commerce, it's well structured. There is topic, there is an objective, there is a vision. But our French-speaking countries, what we have to acknowledge, there is certain weaknesses in terms of approaching those kind of problem. In terms also of the way people have been raised, like Mr. Craig is saying, from the younger age. When you talk about this Chamber of Commerce in the DRC, it's not what you are talking about. So that's why I'm insisting that this platform is teaching me a lot, because the way they talk about the Chamber of Commerce, the content of Chamber of Commerce in our countries. That way, I was saying from the beginning that we have to know and specialize how to separate politics and all these activities, because everything is politicized in our country. Everything, Chamber of Commerce, NGOs, everything is politicized. So for seeing the development in our country, that's why maybe you may ask the question, why DRC is not moving? It's not about actually the president or some other leaders. It's about, like Craig say, from childhood, you see a daughter, you just putting confidence in the person. We did not grow up like that. So it's something where, like I'm saying, we are learning to start lobbying, which is not going to be easy for a country where we are 100 million people. There is a way, the direction things are going, but believing that being in this kind of platform, making a lobby to interconnecting people and women, like saying, okay, I see a Chamber of Commerce which is not doing well, but I present it, for example, to my sister from South Africa, so they can learn from that side. I see another NGO is doing well, I can introduce it to people in this platform. This is a beginning of something. This is a beginning of saying, okay, we don't do things in this way. when we talk about the Chamber of Commerce, this is how it has to be. When you talk about NGO, this is how it has to be. So becoming, I'm not giving you a job, but I see the way you organize and doing things for me to promote this kind of organization, to help people the way they understand Chamber of Commerce, the way they understand NGO. So this empowering of women can also have an impact in my country. I love my country so much. I'm sorry. I want things to happen there. And I'm very blessed today. I'm very blessed today. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And Cindy, I know that you have another follow-up.
Also, my follow-up is to actually address Joseph and say, we lived and we are living in a patriarchy society, a society that has taught us that a girl must be in the kitchen and wash the dishes, and a boy must not cook. And now there was this superiority, a lifestyle that we have actually endorsed amongst men, is what Craig is saying, because she has raised a daughter differently, and he has raised even his son differently, so that they are equal. Once we start doing that in our own families, so that we don't raise boys and girls differently, but we raise them equally, we are creating an equal society. And we've come a long way in South Africa to address these things. We're still working on them as well. And also through the U.S.-Africa Trade Council, I would really say to my dearest sister, Samantha and Reshna, would really, appreciate as the Circle of Global Business Women, the proposal that Joseph is bringing into the table, but the U.S.-Africa Trade Council will lead us into this engagement and see how do we come up with a program that is actually going to be strategically addressing the low self-esteem issues amongst women, because this is a disease that women have. No matter how highly educated you are, at times you have that low self-esteem. And it's not only rural women, it's not only, women in townships, but also women that have qualifications, and to move, like what you're saying with your dearest sister, who is an engineer, who was introduced to male counterparts in DRC, but, the male counterparts in DRC, they never understood why, how are they going to work? So this needs a dialogue. I like the American setup. The American setup has got something that is called diversity and inclusion councils in organizations, where you discuss inclusion of women, where you discuss diversity, because if you don't deal with diversity issues, we won't be able to crack what we're talking about here. So it's actually embedded on diversity and inclusion. So that's where we need to start. So that's why I'm actually throwing it back to the US-Africa Trade Council, because I've been exposed to a UN compact, UN Global Compact meeting with President Irina Tidavi, who is actually the president for the Global Women Summit. And she did a powerful presentation. And also we saw Nestle in Mexico presenting on these issues. So American companies, they're far advanced when it comes to inclusion and diversity. And hence I'm saying the US-Africa Trade Council will be able to really lead us, so that we go into Africa with a package of diversity and inclusion, not empowerment, inclusion, because what inclusion says, we need to change certain policies so that women are included if they're excluded. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Sindiswa. I think we must take one more of the last hand, which is Dr. Sise Abebe. And just before you come in, Dr. Abebe, I just want to say, look, there's a lot we have to go through in terms of wading through the social conditions, mindsets. There's a lot we have to go through. But if there's one thing I know, is that the economic empowerment of people generally releases them and liberates them on so many levels, even on a social level, that actually elevates them to spaces that they aspire to be and hope and dream to be. But if they can actually economically be empowered, it does actually make a difference. And I myself sit on boards and so forth. And what I have noticed is a lot of talks. There are people that talk and then there's people that do. And the one thing that's happening out there is the ones that actually just dive in, take the opportunities like what the U.S.-Africa Trade Council is offering at the moment. I mean, there's just, the chat has been so robust. Thank you so much to everybody. The chat room has been so filled with activity. And I know that within the context of this webinar, you are engaging with each other. I think that's where the actual economic empowerment comes in. So yes, there are policies that need to be changed, patriarchal attitudes that needs to be changed. There's the social, the psychological aspect of growing up, the legacies and so forth. But guys, ladies and gentlemen, let me just say it like that. Do business. Business brings money. Business brings legacies. Business helps you get out of the situation that you are in. Dive in and focus on that. That's what the Trade Council is all about, is for you to trade. So I think that Dr. Ebi, if we can just take yours as a last question, please. And then I think we would like to just maybe move forward. Thank you so much. Okay, you've put your hand down. It's possible that you had your hand up in error. All right. Denitra, over to you before we conclude.
Does anyone else have any questions or any issues that they're having in trade and they'd like to bring it to the floor? We definitely have the experts here, and I'm sure that they would be happy to assist in anything. Okay, if not, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up today. Elsie?
All right, I just want to say thank you very much to every single speaker. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal engagement. We have been so privileged. This roundtable has been so robust and certainly has really given us so much of insight. We thank every person who's actually asked a question, offered advice. And, Dr. Sindiswa, thank you very much for the engagement. All the speakers, Dr. Gomo, Craig, in her absence, Danielle, thank you very much. Rabia, absolutely amazing. We bring on speakers as repeat speakers because we know who they are, what they do, and that is what we all about on the council. But thank you to the attendees. I know that there's so many questions. I think the message to give to you is trade. Get with each other and start doing business, because that's the only thing that's going to elevate you from the actual situation you find yourself currently in.
Robbie, I know that you had a question. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Just maybe a few words to conclude. And I wanted, to thank those who, intervened today and shared their stories. And I also wanted to thank Craig from ICSIM about sharing tangible success stories. So let's make sure we share successes. Let's make sure we share experiences of those who succeeded in trade and investment to create hope and enthusiasm and inspiration. When my friend Sindiswa talked about women, I led, last time I mentioned in the first roundtable, I led a group of women to the US to exhibit their products and services. And a lot of them today are making business. They are sending containers of products. We empower them through trade, and they are successful. They are busy, sending products all over the world, from the US to Europe and Africa. So let's share more of these successes. Funding is there, feasibility study and technical assistance is there. So what's lacking is people working together and trusting each other and doing trade and investing together. So I always say, this is the continent of opportunities. This is the continent of hope. This is a continent of, prosperity. Let's take advantage of Prosper Africa, of ICSIM, of USTDA, of our friends and colleagues from the US mission, and make things work. And please join network. If it's not an AmCham, join a local chamber of commerce, a women network, such the one by our friends from South Africa, and connect, because connecting and networking will give you tremendous opportunities. So with that, blessing to you all, keep connected. The world is full of opportunities, and let's share more of our success stories.
OneAfrica.com, you may proceed.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, my name is Tope. I'm actually reaching out from Nigeria. It's been very interesting and very engaging. I actually want to say that U.S. has been very impactful, bringing, impactful speakers together, to strengthen trade among women. I've actually traversed quite a number of African countries, and I realized that it's very important that we come together and trade. If you want to do any kind of international trade, there's need for engagement. We need to come together. We can't be in Nigeria and improve trade with other countries without moving around. If you notice in African countries, we have a lot of foreigners, people from Europe, from America, from Asia, coming to Africa to seek for trade. So we need to improve movement even within the continent. I recall I attended WEDEF, World Export Development Forum in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia in 2019. We had a lot of African women coming together to trade. And it was very explosive because we had a lot of partnership with partners with people from Tanzania. I could do exports from Nigeria, from Tanzania with my partner to Europe, to Asia. So there was a lot of linkages, a lot of partnership, business opportunity. And so that's what led to this initiative, OneAfrican.com. We want to try and bring Africans together. We're going to leave our comfort zone. We'll leave Nigeria, we'll go to Gambia, Banjul, sometimes in April. There are opportunities in Gambia. Let's see what we can do in Nigeria, investment we can do as women. We take it to Gambia. We bring women from all over, and it will also help our tourism. We definitely going to trade outside globally, but let's maximize the opportunities that we have within the continent. And the only way we can maximize those opportunities is by working together with the women. Women from Africa, we all have different mindsets. Just like what my brother, Mr. Joseph Kayambe, was explaining about the women from Congo, you will realize that interactions among women from different regions will actually, there's this saying that iron sharpens iron. Our experiences can actually broaden our mindset. So what we decided to do is we want to bring women together from different parts in Africa at probably quarterly in different locations outside our location to go and see what business we can do, how we can impact other African countries. There's some women in other African countries that do not have access to the education, to the trainings that we have. Some even don't have access to digital, they don't have access to internet, they have challenges, particularly women in the rural areas. And yet they have resources, they have all these things. So we need to move out. We have to, this is just the time, if we want to achieve a successful implementation of continental free trade, we need to move out of our comfort zone as women in trade. We need to stretch out and interact so that we can do business together. For instance, in Zimbabwe, they don't have coconut oil. They don't have shea butter. We have much of this in Nigeria. So I see no reason why we cannot take it down there. So instead of bringing from outside, we need to strengthen. There's a lot of opportunities, too much. So the only way we can actually harness it is by us coming together, going to different countries in Africa to see what is happening at the other side, of the region, in the continent. Thank you very much. I'll be connecting with stakeholders through the U.S. Trade Council so that we can engage together and see how we can impact our women in other regions. Thank you very much.
And we look forward to that, definitely. Is there anyone else? Rashina, I think we're ready to close it up.
I think I want to thank every single speaker. You have been so amazing. The content, I think just getting down to grassroots level in terms of bringing out the information, because entrepreneurs sometimes don't always, have access to information, or sometimes people talk, over their head. So I want to commend every single speaker that brought out such practical examples in terms of what you can do. I brought out the social aspect as well, in terms of the challenges. These are real things. Facing challenges, it's all good and well to say there's opportunity, but there are challenges out there. And yes, we do need to speak about those challenges. But, as it goes, they say, you jump off a cliff and you pull the parachute along the way. I think that's the life of an entrepreneur. So yes, there are going to be challenges. And yes, along the way, you're going to be faced with so many different things, but that is the power of being an entrepreneur, of being in business, is that you learn along the way. So thank you once again to the all of the speakers. We are so honored to be connected with you. I'm sure you've shared all the information. And yes, the council itself will share the slides as well with those who have requested the slides. And to our attendees, thank you. Amazing to have you on board and for you to actually engage with us. A lot of you are very silent, but you are listening, which is true. Not everybody wants to talk. And obviously, as entrepreneurs go, not to actually share all of the information in a public platform, but please feel free to engage. Please feel free to engage with the council and we will definitely respond. Or if you have the information with the speakers directly, you are most welcome to do that as well. All right. So I want to say on behalf of every single person, give me a second. I just want to quickly check my program. All right. Okay. Look, I just want to say the closing remarks is as we said, Tata said, our president and CEO, is that if you're not doing business in Africa, you are not doing business at all. And I think as Africans, we know the challenges we faced. We need to jump in and start trading. There are many people trading at the moment using the AFCFTA free trade agreement and so forth. Please do that. And thank you very much once again. Be safe. We are, there's lockdown coming again for some countries. There's so many challenges, but I think the positive thing to talk about is that despite the challenges, the resilience of the human spirit is prevailing over and over again with positivity. There are still people trading, there are still people doing business, there are still people pushing for policy changes. So yes, the human spirit is very much alive. Please stay safe. And we will see you in 2022. The U.S.-Africa Trade Council will be having constant engagement in terms of trade, in terms of exhibitions and so forth. Please register with the U.S.-Africa Trade Council, and we wish to see you all in 2022. We want to say happy holidays, Merry Christmas for those who celebrate, be safe. Please let us see you on the other side of 2021. Stay safe and blessings to all of your families, and let's all be prosperous next year. That's what we must aim for. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Goodbye
Bye.
to everyone
Thank you.
around.